From Paws to Claws, Alumni Speakers Visionary 2020 series. We have been sharing knowledge in this format for 6 months. If you are with us for the first time, we welcome you. If you are returning, we equally send you heartfelt greetings. Your Office of Alumni Relations appreciates each of you. Today, we will have another moment of receiving knowledge from this week's panelists. Just like in the previous conversation, panelists expound on pertinent topics that support our students, recent graduates, as well as alumni who are seeking career changes. And we are grateful to those who just want to support the program. As always, we wish to thank the alumni panelists, especially those who are present today and those who have participated in the past. We did not seek you out, but you came running with the spirit of the mighty Panther, which we are, sharing your knowledge with those when we made the call for you to participate. The webinar is one of our newest series of From Paws to Claws, and this is our final dedication to the class of 2020. Nonetheless, let me share a tad bit of the history of the Office of Alumni Relations signature event. The Alumni Student Networking event was originally created in 2008 when Kareem Taylor, class of 2010, in his sophomore year, stopped by the Office of Alumni Relations and said that students should be engaged and learn from the alumni of our one exceptional university. Over the years, we have continuously called on members of the alumni community to embrace our alumni in waiting, commonly known as students. We encircle them until they become members of our alma mater. As Panther Cubs, they develop through discovery, academically, socially, and spiritually, while finding their way, while their paws grow claws, and become fully engaged and entrenched citizens of service locally, nationally, and globally, while remembering to provide financial support to our institution. That's enough on the history, and you can go to our website to learn even more. As we begin the engagement this evening, I would like to thank Chastity B. Evans, who serves as the program manager, for she created this space and she will serve as your host. Chastity, it is your time to begin the conversation.
Thank you so much, Alumna Galen E. Gatewood Joshua, for that treasured introduction and wonderful context. Thank you, everyone, and thank you all for joining your Office of Alumni Relations for our last webinar for this semester, The Chips and the Cookie, Black scholars who are taking action to address racial inequality in STEM. An exceptional thank you to alumna Dr. Michelle Rhodes, Program Specialist for the Office of Online Learning and Continuing Education, for being the technical guru behind all of OAR's webinars. The purpose of this evening's webinar is to understand the world of work, and it is changing in every industry, no more so than STEM, which is known as science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. As we all adapt to new ways of working, there are a number of key considerations. Throughout this webinar series, we will interview experts within STEM to gain real-world insights and perspectives across a range of topics, including STEM careers, African Americans in STEM, the future of STEM fields, education, and how to address the racial inequality gap. Earlier this summer, Black scientists and students shared their experiences on Twitter of being dismissed and discriminated against in academia using the hashtag Black in the Ivory. Many also participated in a June 10th strike meant to shut down STEM industries in support of the Black Lives Matter movement. Just a little housekeeping before we get started. If you have any questions during the presentation, please type them in the Q&A box in your Zoom control panel. I will bring them up during our Q&A section to discuss. Now, without further ado, introducing our first panelist for this afternoon, for this evening, is Alumna Lisa Love. Alumna Love began her career working for Fortune 500 CPG companies in brand marketing. Now, Lisa's focus is the ed tech space. At Tanashi, she is bridging the digital divide by providing affordable computers for kids with preloaded educational content. Alumna Love appeared on Shark Tank, where her team received a deal from Damon John. She was recently named Entrepreneur, 100 Powerful Women of 2020 and Inc. magazine, Top 100 Women Entrepreneurs of 2020. Please, if you all can, follow Alumna Love, Lisa Love, on Twitter at Lisa Loves MKTG. And we will also drop her Twitter handle in the chat. Good evening, Alumna Love. How are you doing today? And thank you so much for serving your alma mater.
I'm good, thanks. Thank you for having me.
No problem, no problem. Thank you. So we're going to dive into your first question for this evening.
Okay.
So the recent blockbuster movie, Black Panther, was hailed as a breakthrough in advancing a compelling narrative of Black power and the superhero genre. Unquestionable, audiences were entranced by a first for the Marvel comic series. A cinematically beautiful production would simultaneously force them to grapple with themes of Black global liberation and freedom, and invited them to imagine the possibilities of a technologically advanced civilization untouched by the scourge of white imperialism and war. I began with this film because it demonstrates how even within what is arguably a critical intervention on our contemporary discourse on race, the film still indulges an increasingly dominant narrative, suggesting that STEM, known as science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, is key to combating racialized oppression. As a CMO and Shark Tank winner, how do you feel about the statement?
Yeah, so definitely. It's pretty sad. The Black US population is about 13 or 14%, yet in STEM fields, specifically engineering, Blacks represent maybe 1 to 3%, especially here, like in the Silicon Valley, at like the Facebooks and the Googles and the Twitters. So, it's really, really sad and sobering. And, you have to ask the question, why, right? Like, why aren't there more Black engineers in these top companies? And so as I think about it, it's just, yeah, you have to ask the question, why, and also what's being done.
Mm-hmm.
And so as you start asking why, and especially because engineering, it's not an industry that's dying, right? It's a booming industry where there's a lot of demand, and the salary is great. So why aren't these Blacks in these companies? And so when you look at the why, just to take a step back, my mom taught in the Los Angeles Unified School District for 50 years. She taught in South Central in primary grades. And so there weren't a lot of resources, right, in South Central, low income community. So she had to use her time, her money, resources to basically create her own materials to teach kids, especially, Black kids in low income communities. And so that's kind of what we're doing with Tenoshi, right? You got to start when they're young and give them that exposure to STEM. And let them know, hey, there's more out there than being an athlete or a rapper. You can do more. There's other fields out there. And so it's giving them that exposure at a young age. So that's what we're at Tenoshi doing right now with our computer. We target 6 to 12-year-olds. It's preloaded with kids coding apps. And so just giving them that exposure at an early age. Again, I also want to say, my dad, he was an engineer. He was actually one of the first Black engineers to graduate from Purdue back in the 50s. So imagine that. So
that's awesome.
So yeah, so you can kind of say I fell in my parents' footsteps. My mom being an educator for so long and my dad being in technology. But it just, I realized throughout the years, the inequities in the whole education system. And so that's what we're doing with Tenoshi. We're exposing kids at a young age, giving them the resources, giving them the tools so that they can have a brighter future.
Exactly. I mean, it's like, hey, you can be oppressed all you want, but if that door is closed, we're going to go through the puppy door because we're going to always find a way, or the window. So right. Thank you for being one of those people to definitely provide resources to our children, both Black and brown. So back to the Black Panther scenario. So the movie begins and ends, and you see what I did here, right? It begins in a poor Black neighborhood in Oakland, California, which establishes a diasporic connection between what the film depicts as the respected and respectable African nation and poor and poorly educated Black people in the United States who continue to suffer the legacy of slavery and its afterlife. In the final scene of Black Panther, through what is framed as a solution to centuries of oppression, the Wakandian king, T'Challa, makes his way back to Oakland and opens a STEM center for the city's underserved Black youth. Are there any plans in the future for Tenoshi to expand past the 21st century computer skills digital divide gap in Oakland, California? Because, you guys seem to be the T'Challa of Oakland, the Wakandian nation.
Yeah, I was so happy to see that. Definitely, there's definitely plans. We're actually doing it now, right? Awesome. We don't have a school per se, only because, that comes with funding. If, $100 million, if someone wants to fund us, we'll definitely take it. So, but what we're doing now is we're getting out there in the community. So we go to East Oakland. There's a school there where we've done free kids coding workshops. Like I said, on our computer, we have pre-loaded kids coding apps. Mm-hmm. And so we take our computers to schools in East Oakland and teach them, or at least give them exposure to coding. So that's one of the things we do. And I have to say, it's sad, but I guess it's an eye opener. The kids in East Oakland, they love coding. Like, they get so happy, especially if once they're finishing their projects and they see what they created, it's like, oh, wow, I can do this. And, it's good to see that because we also do kids coding workshops in Silicon Valley, where the parents are, of course, engineers. And so when we asked those kids, who's coded before, they're raising their hands. They've done Java and all these different languages, right? We asked the same question to kids in East Oakland, and a lot of them, they don't even have a computer at home. So it's just an eye opener, right? With the digital divide, and it really does exist. So we're doing that. We're working with 100 Black men here in Oakland, and we're donating some computers so that there's a school here. We're going to start a computer lab there. We've also been, we did a GoFundMe campaign over the summer and raised money to donate computers to girls at Girls Inc., which is a big nonprofit organization here. So we're out there, we're doing a lot. We don't have a per se school, a Tenoshi school, but I mean, that's definitely something that, you know, that's in our vision.
Further down in the pipeline.
Yeah, that's in our vision. It's just, hey, $100 million. Someone wants to give us that. Yeah, we'll start a school.
Hey, look, we got an alum that works for the Oakland A's. So maybe, just
definitely.
You saw that connect there?
Yeah. It's all about networking and connections.
It is. Yes, it is. Well, oh my gosh. I definitely look forward to the expansion and to hopefully see a Tenoshi in Atlanta, Georgia, soon, someday soon. And I'm gonna be like, hey, I remember that. I remember when our alum was on Shark Tank. So when she first started it, and look, now it's all over the world.
Right.
So we believe in your vision and it's going to happen. All right.
Yay.
Yay. Thank you. Thank you so much, Alumni Love, for your astuteness and for the helpful information and for the awareness. So if you all have any questions for Alumni Love, please type them into your Q&A box in your Zoom control panel now, and we'll be sure to get to them during our Q&A section. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Introducing our next panelist for this afternoon, this evening. I'm sorry, I'm still on that noon time, guys, so please forgive me. Is Alumnus Clarence Bostik. Alumnus Bostik is a technology portfolio manager in the Office of Strategic Analysis, Communication, and Business Development at NASA Langley Research Center. Alumnus Bostik is a 1993 graduate in biology and has completed a MS at Oklahoma State University. In his 14 years associated with NASA and 6 years with the Department of Defense Education Activity, he has held multiple positions across 4 NASA centers and with DODEA at the Pentagon and in Japan. At Clark Atlanta University, Alumnus Bostik was involved in the honors program, Go HP, Howard Hughes Scholars, Minority Biomedical Research Symposia, known as MBRS, the Missouri Kansas Club, and the Beta Psi chapter of Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated. Alumnus Bostik enjoyed spending time with his wife, Wendy, and their children, Ashley and Clarence Julian. Thank you so much for joining us today, Alumnus Bostik. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me.
No problem. Thank you so much for being here and for always supporting your alma mater. We appreciate you. So we're going to dive into your first question for this evening as well. You ready?
I'm ready. Let's go.
All right now. NASA's journeys have propelled technological breakthroughs, pushed the frontiers of scientific research, and expanded the understanding of the universe. As a STEM professional at NASA Langley Research Center, do you sense NASA have or are implementing unique opportunities for diversity and equality in the workplace for their mission directorates?
Well, thank you. I'm so glad you asked that. We actually have several programs at NASA. And really, whenever you start to think about NASA, the opportunity I had before this one was working with the Office of STEM Engagement. There, they have a program that is called MUREP. It's an acronym that stands for the Minority University Research and Education Program. This program invests specifically in minority serving institutions by offering multi-year awards, cooperative agreements, also investing in academic and technological capabilities for HBCUs, also Hispanic serving institutions and others. And so that's one way that they seek to increase diversity by bringing in more folks via the interns and internship opportunities, also by increasing the number of grants. There's also the NASA Unity campaign, which actually goes beyond the Office of STEM Engagement, but is across all of the agency, which is really more of a focus on we and not I. The idea of being proactive way to reinforce employees focus on NASA's mission and not on our differences. Also, NASA has over 10 centers, and they have employee resource groups at each one of those centers. And this provides and supports the diversity that we hope to enjoy, making NASA one of the best places to work in the federal government for the past 8 years.
Wow. Okay. All right. Well, how about the minority students, who dream about an engineering career face, but they host multiple barriers, from implicit bias in the early childhood education to subconscious and overt racism in the workplace. So how is NASA utilizing their STEM engagement platform to ensure these students are not left out of learning how to code, calculate, design, and discover their way to a new era of American innovation?
Excellent question. So while at NASA, we care a lot about engineers and engineering careers, I didn't want to leave engineering without giving a plug that there are several Clarkites that actually work across the agency, and they did not start out as engineers. They have other degrees in science and mathematics. And I could name several of them because if they're not watching, they definitely should be on this webinar. They are great Americans and great alumni. However, whenever you're thinking about how NASA uses the STEM engagement platform, there are a couple of things. And to kind of echo what Lisa had mentioned a little bit earlier, NASA understands that there are several people that are actually at home during these, as a response to COVID, and they may or may not have computers at home. And so it started something called the NASA at Home series. This series actually are a series of videos, webinars, activities, projects that would allow students and their families to actually get engaged with the NASA missions. And so these things actually stretch very broadly across the agency, and they go straight into the homes for people to find ways to get involved. Also, another way that we use the STEM engagement platform, we also have lots of partnerships. We have partnerships with actually space grant organizations in each state. And so in the state of Georgia, there's the Georgia Space Grant, which is actually based at Georgia Tech. And actually, Clark Atlanta University is an affiliate member of Space Grant, is another organization that actually helps to spread opportunities for us across this STEM engagement platform by actually having activities for teachers and for internships and for K-12 situations. And those are in every state, also in Puerto Rico, the Virgin Islands, and Guam. So we also have other efforts where we're actually looking to, for any of the education that we are providing, we actually have a contract with Texas State, and we have efforts in place to make sure that we use culturally responsive teaching methods. These culturally responsive teaching methods are sensitive to the people that we're actually working with, that population of student, to make it both inviting and to honor their culture as we invite them into the learning spaces. And so while it is not everything, we are looking to address some of those issues with various opportunities like those I mentioned and others.
Wow. I mean, that is a lot. I literally just took down majority of what you were saying, because I'm going to share that with some of my friends who I know have sons that love to build things. So
Indeed.
If you start to receive numerous clicks on your computer, on your website, just know it came from me. Okay.
Okay, awesome. Well, we always say there's a place for them at NASA. From the time that they're 16 years old until they finish graduate school, there are paid internships that are available at NASA. We would love to see more Clark Atlanta University students applying for those internships at intern.nasa.gov. We would love to see more of those people actually looking for opportunities to actually start businesses and to get involved in either the technology transfer program or the SBIR programs, to look for ways that they can actually start out as entrepreneurs and get involved in actually being a partner to move the missions forward for all of us.
Exactly. Well, there you have it. So if there's anybody on this call today, I would be, linking it up with Alumnus Bostik, okay? Because he got the NASA plug over here. He is the plug. Thank you.
I'm just glad to be here, and I'm just one of many. There are so many people, and I tell you, I'll start name dropping, and you guys would be just, if anything, mad that I forgot your soror or your fraternity brother, because I tell you, there's a lot of NASA people and a lot of NASA love that's flowing from Clark Atlanta University through the National Aeronautics and Space Administration.
Well, thank you so much, Alumnus Bostik, for your
having me
and your helpful information. I mean, we truly appreciate it. If you all have any questions for Alumnus Bostik, please type them into your Q&A box in your Zoom control panel now, and we'll be sure to get to them during our Q&A session. All right, thank you again. And if you start to get plenty of pings from LinkedIn, just know it came from me as well. Introducing our next panelist is Alumna Chastity Wright. Hey, twin. No, I was playing. Alumna Wright is a United States Air Force aerospace, cybersecurity, technology veteran, Clark Atlanta University School of Business alum, and an upcoming Stanford graduate. She is the owner of Wright Tech Solutions and founder of Infiltron Software Suite, which focuses on cybersecurity solution for 5G, smart cities, unmanned transportation, and more. Alumna Wright has written legislation for STEM programs in Georgia and is currently working to mitigate risk for people of color and women concerning facial recognition technology. How are you doing today, Alumna Wright? That sounds awesome. I mean, I would definitely look forward to the facial recognition, because iPhone always get my face messed up. I don't know if it's because I change my hairstyle quite frequently or not. Maybe just don't remember me. Like, okay, it's a different person. What's going on? I cannot wait. Thank you. Thank you. How are you doing today? And thank you so much for serving your alma mater.
Hey man, I'm awesome. I'm always serving Clark Atlanta, no matter what rooms I'm in, even in the military. I'm always shouting out CAU at some point on a panel or wherever I am.
Awesome. Well, we're gonna go ahead into your first question for this evening as well.
Cool.
So, in what ways are STEM reforms implicated in the advance of multiculturalism, anti-Blackness, colonialism, and white supremacy in this historical moment?
Well, we saw it. I mean, you just mentioned it. The facial recognition during the protests kind of, gave way to the issues that we're having with facial recognition to amplify all of those things that you just named. So in present day, Infiltron was started in 2018, and we are probably the smallest startup doing IoT cybersecurity. And no one, as you saw, they pull Amazon, they pull IBM because they could not mitigate those issues of those isms. So prior to this even coming to pass, I was already looking at the fact that the technology like facial recognition was going to integrate and provide law enforcement in some degree, meaning that it was going to rule and regulate us via facial recognition and other biometric technology. And just off of the strength of knowing the issues with facial recognition, I kind of felt like I needed to step in and do what I could to mitigate those issues for us. Because what I know is the reason why they have the issues is because the teams aren't diverse enough. They're generally primarily Asian engineers and or Caucasian engineers, or a mixture of those two demographics, where, my company, for example, I strategically made sure that we had different types of people on my team to bring those perspectives to the solution. We just tested the facial recognition part of our solution at the voting polls here in Atlanta. And, we're going to, after Turkey Day, we're going to come back to the drawing board and, make sure that we've got some accurate data so we can help people. APD has projects right now where they're using facial recognition, whether y'all know it or not. It's on the website. You can look it up. It's not unknown information. So, I was thinking about, I'm Black and a woman. It affects me. On top of that, if law enforcement is going to be using it, I know that there's a large percentage of Black people that have been to jail. And if law enforcement is going to use that, we want to make sure that the data that they're using in congruence with facial recognition is accurate, because they could come pick you up and your record has been expunged. I want it to be at the table for, it's kind of like, this is my mindset of it. I want to be at the table when they redo and amend the Constitution and the Bill of Rights and legislation like that, because they're going to leverage technology to regulate us that way. It's not going to be, the robots are coming, people. Like, they're already here. They're delivering your packages. And all of that. They're scanning your face, all of that. So, once I caught wind of that, because I'm in that space, and knowing that people like all of us on this call look like, we're the target, essentially. Let's keep it in layman terms. Somebody has to, make sure that we're taken care of. So, yes.
And also, super congratulations on your Black Founders Fund Award through Google.
Man. That was so, amazing.
That's awesome. So, we hope to see your brand on Google soon, because we be like, hey, we know her. She won that Google Award.
Yeah, man, that's a lifetime partnership, a really great program. Awesome. I advise anybody that's on this call to apply for it when it comes up again. What Jewel Burke and her team are doing with the Atlanta Founders Academy and Joey with Goody Nation, all here in Atlanta, are, it's just phenomenal. The people that I'm in Atlanta, so, and I'm in the tech space, and, the people that I'm connected to now, we actually just started a co-development space for Black techies. And it's down the street from the AUC, literally down the street from Georgia Tech. It's called Kit Labs. It is the Wakanda of Atlanta. And I am, I'm in the DoD space very heavily. And one of the things that I've been afforded, because I am an entrepreneur in that space, is to hire college students as interns and co-ops for my contracts, because I know places like Clark Atlanta and other HBCUs tend to not have labs. So I'm the lab, and now Kit Labs is the lab. So, we're moving in the space. We're trying to, I'm kind of eradicating the isms in different spaces. It's the tech as solutions itself, and the issues that Lisa even alluded to with her education platform. Like, we're wanting to start them early as possible. We're wanting to get them in the spaces that, we probably were in, and we saw that it wasn't enough of us. I've been to the Afrotechs, I've been to, different conferences, and it's the conversation is that it's not enough of us in those corporate. I worked in corporate America too. I worked at Georgia Lottery. I worked at, you name it, NBA. I worked for the Hawks, doing technology. I've been in the corporate space. I've experienced the isms. Even in the military, I experienced the isms. So with me being an entrepreneur, I wanted to make sure I mitigated those issues as much as I could, because I knew corporate America is not going to do it.
Exactly. So, as a cybersecurity guru, owner of Right Tech Solutions, and founder of Infiltron Software Suite, do you feel the role, purpose, and positionality of STEM education is absent from the broader intellectual and political scene, as like what we're currently seeing right now? And, you kind of touched base on it in your first question, but,
Yes, it's getting better slowly. And that's just the truth about it. One of the things that I will say that I'm most proud of that I was a part of was writing legislation for STEM clubs in the state of Georgia. I'm from Warner Robins, Georgia, which is predominantly Latino and Black population. And again, to allude to Lisa's calls, I wanted to make sure that these kids started early. And in knowing how legislation works, that is how we see change. So yeah, I hope that answered your question. Like it for me, being in tech and being an entrepreneur, I can take more risks than a person that's in a corporate setting, right? I can take charge of things a little bit differently and take different steps, so to speak, to get things done. All the while keeping in mind that I do have brothers and sisters that are in those corporate positions, and not putting them in the crosshairs, so to speak, because I have been them, whether it was in the uniform or whether it was in a suit. So, and I understand them, in some aspect, but no, all the while knowing that in the political realm, to get back to your question, in the political realm, they don't care right now. They don't care enough. And again, the only way that's going to change is through legislation. We have to change the laws. We have to make sure that legislation is going to STEM programs, that grants are created for a platform like Lisa's, specifically for people that look like her. I just had a call talking about this not too long ago, where, not that we're looking for a handout, because we're going to find a way to make one, right? However, if we can show the data, if they want to go there, we can show the data and provide a great argument as to why we should have grants for Lisa's program.
Exactly.
Why isn't there one for hers? In the United States, like that's the angle I'm coming from, and I can, because I'm an entrepreneur. And let me just say this, I'm an entrepreneur because of Clark Atlanta University. It watered the seed. So, I'm a hybrid. I'm an aerospace engineer, tech. I'm Black. So again, and I've been in different spaces. So, there are times when I felt like if I had started earlier, just if I had started a little bit earlier, maybe going through a Lisa Love program, we might be a little bit further.
Well, I believe you're right on track. And you're gonna keep soaring from here. So, as I told Lisa, as I told Mr. Clarence, we got your back.
Yep.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Alumni Right, for your best practices and your awareness, your information. We truly appreciate it. And if you all have any questions or concerns for Alumni Right, please type them into the Q&A box in your Zoom control panel now, and we'll be sure to get to them during our Q&A session.
C, A, U.
CAU. I probably didn't do it right, but you all know what I was doing. Thank you so much. Last but never least, introducing our final panelist for this evening is Alumnus, Dr. Alumnus Dr. Briggs is a 1994 graduate and former trustee of Clark Atlanta University, and is the founder and executive director for the Southern Center for Broadening Participation in STEM. Dr. Briggs formerly served as the director of the Center of Excellence in STEM and mathematics educator in Birmingham, Alabama. He seeks to create new possibilities in STEM career pathways for all students, specifically the underserved and underprepared. In his role with the Southern Center, Alumnus Dr. Briggs seeks to build capacity through problematic policy and funding guidance, increasing sustainability and effectiveness of STEM programs, securing more than $7 million in STEM grant funding from the National Science Foundation to increase underrepresented minorities in STEM career pathways. Alumnus Dr. Briggs continues to assist organizations with leveraging the financial resources needed to operate sustainable STEM programs. Alumnus Dr. Briggs is an advocate for impactful STEM policy and broadly disseminates best practices in STEM student recruitment, retention, success, and leadership through ongoing committee and board assignments, such as the Alabama Mathematics, Science, and Technology Coalition, the Understanding Interventions Advisory Board, and the Conference Board of Mathematical Sciences National Forum. Most notably, serving as a member of the Alabama Governor's Advisory Council for Excellence in STEM and a member of the Alabama State Mathematics Course of Study Committee. Alumnus Dr. Briggs contributed to the development and adoption of the Alabama Roadmap to STEM Success, a strategic plan for STEM education, and the 2019 Alabama State Mathematics Course of Study, respectively. As a newly appointed member to the Alabama STEM Council, Alumnus Dr. Briggs believes it is essential that we equip, elevate, and enrich our students, faculty, and institutional leadership with the necessary tools to advance degree completion, specifically STEM career pathways. Thank you so much, Alumnus Dr. Briggs, for that wonderful bio and for definitely being here today and for always serving your alma mater. How are you doing today?
Wonderful. I am so excited to be here. I just wanted to jump in each and every time they hit a point, because everything they said was right on point with the issues and the challenges that we face in this arena that we call STEM education. So I'm excited to respond to your questions.
Awesome. Well, thank you. Thank you so much.
That I didn't get the Black Panther question, but I'm gonna let this
Look, I got you on part two. Okay? So, as the executive director for the Southern Center for Broadening Participation in STEM, how do students and committees of color experience and make sense of STEM reforms, career pathways, initiatives to create new possibilities?
Well, Chastity, that's a great question. And, you know, our vision at the Southern Center is to provide the realization of equitable representation and inclusion of underrepresented minorities in STEM. And you heard Clarence and Lisa and our other guest, I didn't see her name, it's just Chastity. They alluded to it. I mean, they directly said there's not enough African Americans in the STEM fields. And so when I hear that, it's not because we're not capable. It's not because we don't have the brain power or even the desire to want to engage on that level. It's systemic. It starts in kindergarten. It starts in our education system. Our system literally steers our kids away from STEM. You know, thank God for HBCUs, because HBCUs do the things that they didn't have a name for it really when our parents went. They didn't have a name for it really when we came through. But when you're talking about intentional advising, intrusive advising, when you're talking about culturally responsive teaching, that's what HBCUs do. They take all our culminated experiences and make it work for us and create a very targeted career plan for us in terms of what we want to do. And one thing we learned at Clark Atlanta, we're going to find a way or we're going to make a way. And Clark Atlanta University allowed us to be able to sit down with kings and queens. And by sitting down with these individuals, we realized that we too had the right to inherit the best that this country has to offer. And so, when you're thinking about STEM, you have to think about mindset. What is it in a child's mindset that steers them away from or her away from mathematics or steers that person away from chemistry? And I'm saying a lot of bad words here. I realize that because bad words. And so that's wherein lies the problem. Because if you think and you get an upset stomach or you get really tense and anxious when someone says algebra or calculus, that's been something that's been built into you. That's an emotional response to something that happened to you, an experience. So when I think about an experience with my son was, and this is the age it usually happens to Black boys, 3rd or 4th grade. 3rd or 4th grade, You get the call from the teacher. You need to come in. Your son didn't turn in his math homework, or he did not answer the questions correctly. So we go in, and number one, we have a first-year teacher. This is our first year teaching, and she's trying to teach math, but she's K-12. She's a generalist. She's not a math teacher. And she said, your son got all the questions right, but he didn't do it the way it was outlined in the book. And I said, So I'm waiting for more. And I said, okay, what else? Oh, that's it. So I marked them wrong. So I, of course, examined the problems, and his math was correct. His rationale was correct. And I gently put the sheet back in front of the teacher. And I said, so what's the problem? I said, can you show me how you wanted him to do it? And her response to this very day, I tell this story all the time. She didn't show me, she didn't demonstrate, she didn't model it as most good teachers would do. She started crying. She literally started crying because she didn't know how to do it herself. So the real issue that we're having here is not necessarily that our children don't have a desire, but their desire is being killed by teachers who are not being properly prepared, teachers who are not culturally responsive, teachers who are arrogant in their ignorance.
Mm-hmm.
She was staunch about the fact, and she's talking to a math professor, and she did not blink an eye. She wasn't even moved by the fact that I teach mathematics at the college level. But she took her position, and she was staunch in that position. So when you're facing that kind of systemic racism, that kind of inequity in education, you have to start to deal with it from a policy perspective. I heard Clarence and Lisa and Chastity talk about funding, but funding, you got to get the policy straight. So when I decided to work on the course of study, I was literally one of maybe 3 Blacks on the course of study for our state of Alabama to help design the new mathematics course of study for the entire state. And so you get a chance to see that a lot of folks who are making the standardized tests, making the rules, don't look like us, don't come from our communities, and in most cases, I hate to say, don't have our best interests at heart. So it makes it a tremendous challenge for our children to succeed, and more importantly, maintain a high interest and desire to want to do it, to not feel less than if they don't get it right the first time. Because guess what? We get it wrong 1,000 times before we get it right. That's the whole objective of research. We get it wrong more times than we get it right. Mm-hmm. And you got to have that stick-to-itiveness, that persistence, that desire to keep going forward. And unfortunately, we kill that in our children at a very early age.
That is so true. I mean, I had something like that happen to me when I was actually in the 3rd grade. So I can truly relate to that story. I went to a school where there was absolutely nobody pretty much that looked like me. I didn't even have a Black teacher. So I know I've never had a Black teacher until I came to Clark Atlanta. So wow. I know exactly what you're talking about. So how do we racialize politics embedded in these reforms become embodied and contested in school cultures, curricular, and epistemological priorities and pedagogical practices?
So one of the things I would encourage every teacher, every CEO of a STEM organization, whether you work for NASA or any other group, we are all leaders, and we're a part of communities, and we have children who are school age. I think it's incumbent on all of us to be a part of the PTA, to be a part of the school board, to be a part of the state school board, and hopefully we'll have someone at the National Department of Education that have our best interests at heart as well. Because when you're not involved in creating the policy, that lays the foundation for everything else that emerges later. In terms of funding, because then they get to direct where the money goes, who the grants go to. Is NASA gonna have the money for their educational outreach program next year? Is NSF gonna get the additional $200 million for HBCUs. So if you're not at the table and helping make these decisions, the folks who are there are going to funnel that funding to their organizations and to their alma mater. So you have to be at the table to fight for the right policies. In regard to teacher education, you know, we sent 24 recommendations to our state governor. 24 of those key recommendations fell into one of 5 groups. One was STEM exploration and discovery. The other one was numeracy and STEM fluency. The third was pre-service STEM education preparation, where I mentioned with the example with my son, making sure we're preparing these teachers to understand how to be culturally responsive and to deal with people that don't look like them and have a better understanding of the content that they're trying to teach. Also, you know, provide support to in-service teachers. In-service teachers typically don't even have the capacity to teach the way they know they could.
That's true.
And went through a high school in Atlanta, Alabama, New Jersey, Chicago, on the West Coast. You've had that teacher who's teaching 30 students, teaching 5 classes a day. They're dealing with kids who are homeless. They're dealing with kids who are underfed. They're dealing with kids whose parents don't support them or are not around. So they're dealing with the social emotional, they're dealing with the academic, and they're dealing with the political environment that they're actually working in. So they don't have the capacity to do all those things for a sustained period of time. So you get this teacher burnout. All the good teachers leave and become CEOs of STEM companies, or they go to corporate. They only last 3 to 4 years. The bad ones don't have a real reason to leave. So they find a way to kind of navigate through the system, and they end up staying for 30 or 40 years. So we have to find a better way of supporting our good teachers and bringing in new and good teachers. And the last thing I'll mention is, you know, exposing our kids to the career opportunities in STEM. Because, you know, percentage-wise, you ain't going to the NBA. Percentage-wise, you may not get on that show. So, I mean, statistics just won't allow it. And so, you know, I'm so proud of Clark Atlanta and all our other HBCUs, because we only represent 3% of all the colleges and universities in the nation. Yet we produce 20% of all STEM degrees that are being awarded. So we are disproportionately producing scientists and engineers better than any other type of university. Could you imagine if we were given the additional funding and support to bring back that engineering program at Clark Atlanta University? Hint, hint, Clarence. Clarence, we need
we would take over. We would take over.
Yeah, well, yeah. So I think that we need to make bigger and bolder moves in terms of laying a great foundation, because we need more pipeline programs, STEM enrichment programs that focus on our kids when they're 10, 11, 12 years old and even younger, and then sustain that pipeline through high school with research opportunities in the summer. And then by the time you get to Clark Atlanta, they already chosen which research path or career path they would like to go down. And then there's additional research opportunities every summer for them as a student, and then through graduate school. So there are templates, there are pathways to travel. We just have to find the support and the capacity to really implement these in our own communities.
Exactly. Oh my goodness, you said it all right there. I'm gonna definitely have to send this webinar to some of my friends, because yeah, it's time. But thank you so much. I mean, thank you, Dr. Alumnus Briggs. Are you accepting any candidates at your school, student-wise?
At my school, listen, I'm looking for good. I better not say that, because Galen, you're a program director there.
Oh no, not me. I'm talking about students, like young students. We're gonna ship them over there to you.
Actually, I'll tell you what, we'll be more than happy to talk with you, because we do have a lot of opportunities. And Clarence, Chastity, and Lisa mentioned quite a few of them, but there are many, many, many more that we definitely need to share with you.
Awesome. Awesome. I look forward to the conversation. Well, if you all have any questions for alumnus Dr. Briggs, please type them into the Q&A box now in your Zoom control panel, and we'll be sure to get to them during the Q&A session. Thank you again, Dr. Briggs.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much to all of our alumni panelists for the insightful gems that have been released today to go forth with you. We will go ahead and take some time for our questions now. Just a reminder, please be sure to type your questions into the question box in your control panel. Now is the time to engage with your alums and network. So it looks like we have a few questions. Also, if panelists, if you have not dropped your LinkedIn or point of contact that you would like for our attendees to reach you on, please do so now. They are dying to meet you all. So let's see what our first question looks like. All right, Alumnus Redmond or Mr. Redmond, Alumna Chastity, right? Can you drop your contact information in the chat, please? She's gonna do that right now, Mr. Redmond. All right, then question comes from, and this is a toss-up question, so anyone that would like to answer it is more than welcome to do so. This comes from alumna Sandra Brooks. She said, when we look at Leon technology in China, it has been used to imprison many ethnic religious groups. Do you feel in general people of color are aware of the advancements and usage of facial recognition? So I know Alumna Wright, you touched base on this since this was your project.
I mean, with the recent, I'm sorry, my bad, but with the recent protests, like everybody watches TV. If you aren't aware, I mean, you can't go nowhere right now. It was a pandemic. What else were people doing other than watching the TV and learning the issues around facial recognition? So I'm gonna just say it, like if you're not aware of it by now, you are probably under a rock since March. And it's again, like everybody here has spoken. I think Lisa, everybody has spoken. Like facial recognition, like that's not a novelty technology at this point in the game. A person of color should know. You can go Google. It was a guy in Detroit who got wrongfully identified because of the facial recognition that was being used by law enforcement in Detroit. So, I don't necessarily think that, if it is, they've been on a rock. Like it's pretty out there now. What I've seen internationally, because we do kind of play in some international fields, which was my major at Clark Atlanta. We are seeing, on the continent of Africa, they're doing a lot of biometric technology. A lot, and not just facial recognition. So, anywhere outside of the bounds of the United States of America, if you're traveling, I would say do your research, see what type of law enforcement they're leveraging with technology, maybe something like that. You always want to be aware, especially if you're going somewhere different outside of the US, you want to be aware, but we're definitely should be aware in the US about that.
Mm-hmm. Did anyone else want to take a stab at that question?
Well, I want to add to what Chastity said. So let me tell you, one of my favorite companies. I was afraid of it at first, like most people. So if you've been to the airport pre-COVID, you may have seen Clear.
Yeah.
I have a Clear account. I was a little skeptical because I didn't want to give my biometric information. But I said, as a teacher, I've been giving my fingerprints to the State Department. I've been giving them to the police departments for years. So I said, they literally have all my bio information. And so if you did not realize, Clear is not a publicly traded company yet, but I need to invest in them because what they're about to do next is ridiculous. So they're going to incorporate the facial recognition software into their portfolio. And they're planning on using it in stadiums, in arenas for sporting events. So you could go in with ticketless environment.
Oh,
So
amazing.
I said to myself, I wouldn't want to do this as an individual, but it's not what I want to do. It's what's about to come down the pipeline. And so a lot of times we get emotional and we say, well, that's not right. That's not what we're going to do, which excludes us from being at the table to have the discussion, right? So you realizing that these things are coming, that people are actively pursuing these. If you're not there to help navigate this, we're going to be at the end, get the raw end of the deal on it. So we have to be a part of that conversation and understand what's coming.
That's true. Like Chastity said, the robots are coming. They're already here. All right. So I think you all have answered all of the rest of the questions. Alumna Brooks said, we need to be at the table for the discussion. Thank you, Chastity and Calvin. All righty. So thank you all for the questions. Please stay in contact with our alumni and look out for our upcoming events and our Giving Tuesday campaign to reach 100K. That is our goal for December 1st, everyone. So please be on the lookout for the information that will hit your inbox on on Sunday, the 22nd of November. And we're doing actually a 10-day countdown. So please be on the lookout for that. If you also know anyone that has a business, please have them register or sign up for the Alumni Black Market. We're going to open the market up on the 23rd of November for all to begin to start to shop in order to support your alums, to shop Black, and to give back to your alma mater. And always, we are in the process of doing our $1 million campaign. Everybody can do something together. So anything that you give from now on will go towards that campaign. So thank you all so much for, if you've already given, thank you. If you will continue to give because it's in your spirit and it's the holidays, please do so. Just like you're doing today, you're giving your brain cells, and we truly appreciate it. So thank you, everyone. Like I said, we appreciate you all being here. Special thanks to my colleagues, Senior Director of Alumni Relations, Mrs. Galen E. Gatewood-Josho, and to Dr. Rose for their stellar service, and also to our wonderful panelists for a remarkable job this evening. Thank you again to our attendees for joining us today, and we look forward to your support. Please look out for more information regarding our events by following us on social media at CAU Office of Alumni Relations. You can always catch us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, or just visit us on the website at www.cau.edu/alumni. Thank you all again, and we'll see you all in the new year. Happy holidays.